Frozen streets, burning voices, Minnesota protests in the harshest cold East African mindset. Special report. Today in Minnesota, the cold was not normal, it was dangerous. Wind cut through bones, breath froze in the air. Temperatures dropped so low that staying outside for minutes could damage the skin, the lungs, even cost a life. And today, nothing moved as usual. No work, no school, no normal routine. Across the entire state of Minnesota, classrooms were empty. Businesses closed their doors, workers stayed home, but the streets were not empty, because even as the state paused, the people stood up. This morning Minnesota woke up under extreme winter conditions. Arctic winds pushed wind chills to life-threatening levels. Emergency alerts warned people to stay indoors. Schools canceled classes statewide. Universities shut down. Employers told workers to stay home. Doctors warned of frostbite in minutes. Minnesota has seen cold before, but today was different. Today the shutdown was not only because of weather, it was also a statement. Across Minneapolis, St. Paul, and cities statewide, people made a different choice. They wrapped themselves in layers, they covered their faces, they held scarves tight against the wind, and instead of going to work or school, they went to the streets. Because for many Minnesotans, especially immigrants, silence felt more dangerous than the cold. Today's protest was not random. It was a statewide standstill. No work, no school, no shopping, no business as usual. A collective pause. A response to immigration enforcement actions. A response to fear spreading through immigrant communities. A response to the killing of a Minnesota woman during an ICE operation. For many families, especially immigrant families, this moment reopened deep wounds. A wound of fear, a wound of memory, a wound of history. The kind of fear that makes parents look at their children and wonder what tomorrow holds. For East African communities, this protest was deeply personal. Somali mothers, Oromo fathers, Ethiopian elders, many of them remember what it means when daily life stops. They remember curfews, they remember checkpoints, they remember when schools closed. Not because of snow, but because of instability. They have walked before, away from war, away from repression, away from systems that treated them as invisible. They came to Minnesota seeking safety, dignity, and peace. Today they walked again, not fleeing but standing to say, we belong here. Our dignity matters. Our children deserve peace. What made today historic was not just the protest, it was the unity. Minnesotans from every background stood with East African immigrants. Teachers stayed home in solidarity. Students shared messages online. Workers refused to clock in. Local businesses closed voluntarily. Neighbors brought hot drinks. Churches and mosques opened doors for warmth. Strangers checked on each other in the freezing air. This was not charity. This was Minnesota standing together. A message echoed across the state. If one community lives in fear, none of us are free. One of the most emotional moments happened at the airport. Faith leaders, pastors, imams, elders sat peacefully on frozen ground. They prayed, they sang, they refused to leave. Police arrested them. No shouting, no violence, just prayer and handcuffs. For many East African families watching, it felt familiar. A reminder of home, a reminder that faith has always stood at the front of justice movements. Throughout the day, voices rose from the cold. A mother said, "I came for my children. Fear should not be their future." A young man said, "No work today, no school today, because justice cannot wait." An elder whispered, "We survived worse than winter." Tonight, Minnesota remains frozen. Schools are still closed, businesses are still dark, snow still covers the streets, but something moved today. Not schedules, not profits, not routines. Hearts moved. When an entire state stops working and learning, when people choose justice over comfort, it means the message is powerful. From Minnesota, this is East African mindset, where struggle meets dignity, where communities stand as one, and where cold cannot silence courage. Like, share, subscribe.